The last 5 episodes of Cobra Kai season 6, the finale, has marked the end of this wonderful run and this great time of a show. I am sad about it. Absolutely loved this series. We're going to talk about this 5 episodes that just recently came out and the series as a whole, because this ended up being one of my most favorite shows around, and I enjoyed every step of the way through. And I'm extremely sad to see that these characters, we might not see them again. But enough of all that sadness, man. I'm going to talk to you about the last 5 episodes of season 6 of Cobra Kai. So before even the first 5 episodes of season 6 came out, I was actually kind of nervous about season 6, mainly because I feel like season 5 was kind of the weakest of the show. I really felt like season 5 was where the quality of the show kind of dropped a bit as far as fight choreography, feeling a bit slowed down, not as quick and aggressive as it did in the previous 4 seasons. I'm not too sure what made that change happen. It could have been because actors like Zolo Maridueña was doing the Blue Beetle, and maybe they were trying to lower the risk of injury, but it felt like the fight choreography went down in quality. A bit of the story plots kind of felt out of place. Still an enjoyable season, but definitely my least favorite of the 6. So I was a bit nervous for season 6, thinking that it might have been more of that. And even in those first 5 episodes of season 6, I did kind of feel that way, but I definitely was able to see that it was getting back to form and getting better. So I ended up getting really excited for the second drop. And then getting into these last 5 episodes, man, I think that these last 5 episodes were done so well. It had so much emotion. It had so much fighting. A great conclusion to a lot of the character arcs that we have been seeing form. And even though I think that the entire show is kind of a love letter to the 80s, season 6, the last 5 episodes really lean into that with the montages, the soundtracks, even the dialogue and some of the speeches. Very heavy, like Rocky vibes, with music that is just getting you pumped, and speeches that just felt like you just had to get fired up, man. I shit you not, I was about to go and buy me a gi. One of the big things that I love about this show as a whole is that in every scene of every season of every episode, you can see the love and the care that the creators put into this show, that they are fans of the original Karate Kid, that they are fans of this era, and that they understand character development, and that every arc is treated with that love and care. And I find it amazing that me, being somebody who is no longer really in the coming of age demographic anymore, that I am still able to somewhat relate to these characters and reflect on my own life about how I felt because of maybe what, Robbie or Miguel is going through. I love that this show was able to take almost every single cast member and make them feel important, and we're able to get you invested into their story. Yeah, sure, you might have your favorite, but this is a cast that I just enjoyed all around. I don't really know if there is a cast member that I don't like. Even the villains, I mean, of course there are villains, so like, yeah, I don't like them, but even them, there are moments that you start to really feel for them or understand their perspective of why they're doing something. And I know I'm talking about the entire show as a whole, but these last 5 episodes just did a great job at concluding this 6-season long story that we have been following, with the kids now all getting ready for college, this being their last run and their last tournament, at least of this age group, and going their separate ways, parting from each other, from their parents, now really starting to step into the real world. And with that being the motivation for them to push as hard as they can for this last tournament. And I think that the use of the Sekai Takai was done really well, because throughout the season, and even in the old Karate Kid films, it was always going to lead up to a tournament, where it's the All Valley tournament or whatever else. It did in some moments start to feel just a little bit repetitive, but they did do a good job at making each tournament that they were a part of feel like it was a step above the one before. And the Sekai Takai does that tenfold, knowing that this is a broadcasted world televised event, and that it is really the last opportunity for this age group to really make their mark in karate, and that they pulled so many dojos from so many different places of the world, I thought was done really well. You really feel the importance of this event, and not even just for the kids, but for the senseis as well. Reese, Silver, even for Johnny Lawrence, these are really big moments, and a lot of it is being looked at as a second opportunity to make right the wrongs that has been happened before. Another thing that I loved about these last 5 episodes is that even though we've been following these kids for 6 seasons, This show was originally promoted to be from the point of view of Johnny Lawrence, now living his life, figuring out what is next. He's been through so much bullcrap after 84 and losing to Daniel LaRusso in the All Valley tournament. And I'm not going to say that we missed out on any of his perspective. I think that the show the entire time did a really good job at showing his perspective and where he's coming from. But I love that these last 5 episodes really put the focus on the senseis this time. And even though I think that this tournament meant a lot to the kids, it definitely meant a lot to the senseis, as I've said before, because this really did feel like possibly their last opportunity. Whereas, you know, the kids will go off to college doing karate in college, there will be other opportunities for them. And I think that that is something that Robbie comes to realize, especially after having to come to terms with his loss in the Sekai Takai. But for Johnny, for Silver even, and Daniel, and even Kreese, this is really the last opportunity that they have, at least in their own heads. And I love that we circled back and we started focusing more on Johnny and his motivations for everything, and really got down to the wire about why he felt the way that he felt. A lot of self-reflection, a lot of flashbacks, and a lot of closure that was able to be had between a lot of these characters. And I'm gonna start off with one of the villains, Kreese. This show did such a good job with John Kreese. Now, I will say it did get repetitive a few times, seeing Terry Silver and John Kreese come back again and again and again, and them being the constant villains for the show. But I think what these last 5 episodes did in giving Kreese an end to his arc of being a better person, realizing the shortcomings that he has, realizing the bad that he's done to people, especially Johnny Lawrence, because I love that they went back and they showed that parking lot scene from Karate Kid where John Kreese is choking up Johnny Lawrence and calling him a loser and all that, and just the effect that that had on Johnny Lawrence being a young kid with essentially his idol mistreating him and telling him that he was nothing because he lost a tournament. And John Kreese coming to that realization and understanding that what he has done in his life was not the way to go, and that he has caused so much pain. And for him to make the decision to do the best that he can to right that wrong and come to the defense of not even just Johnny Lawrence, but Daniel LaRusso also, I thought was done so perfectly. It was believable. I don't think that John Kreese, I forget the actor's name, I don't think he's the best actor, but he definitely played this part very believable. And it was really shocking to see that he came around. I didn't expect that at all. Terry Silver, I don't think had much of an arc. He kind of maintained the same qualities that he has always had, but to see him in some moments become vulnerable because he was sick and this Sekai Takai was really his last opportunity, I thought was a nice twist to throw on. Put a little bit of emotion into there where I didn't want Terry to win, but there were some moments where I was like, bro, like, so bad. The focus on Daniel LaRusso, and I believe episode 13, I loved that, where he is struggling to give Sam an answer on whether or not she should even fight in the Sekai Takai because it might mean more to Tori. And Daniel starts to reminisce about Mr. Miyagi and start his little wax on, wax off. And he falls asleep and has this dream, and it's him and Mr. Miyagi fighting these skeleton costume people just like in the first movie, except he's not being saved, he's fighting alongside Mr. Miyagi. Cannot tell you how hard this one hit me, because I have made the complaint before about this show that when it comes to Ralph Macchio playing Daniel LaRusso, I didn't really see Daniel in his performance. He felt more just like Ralph Macchio and felt very snobbish, felt very high horse, very righteous, and very I'm better than you in a lot of scenarios. But in this moment where we get the horribly done CGI of Mr. Miyagi, which I'm gonna talk about, I'm probably not gonna talk about. It was bad, the CGI was bad, but it did not matter to me at all because the CGI was done in such a useful way and a meaningful way that I don't really care that it was done bad. It was probably the best that they could on a Netflix budget, but they were able to use Mr. Miyagi in such an emotional way and an intense way that it made it okay with me. And it was still great to have Mr. Miyagi be a part of this franchise. But in that scene, after they're done whooping on everybody in the skeleton costumes, and you see Daniel just completely break down to Mr. Miyagi about Mr. Miyagi's past. Why didn't you tell me that you killed somebody? Why didn't you tell me that you were in the Sekai Takai? That performance, it hit so hard because that was the first time where I saw Daniel's son in that performance. I saw Daniel LaRusso and it was no longer Ralph Macchio. And when he teared up and he like was yelling and you could hear the strain in his voice, oh man, that was Daniel. And I thought that Ralph Macchio absolutely killed that part of that scene. Just for him to come out of it and to realize what Mr. Miyagi was teaching him all the time, taught you to fight so you wouldn't have to. And passing that lesson down to his daughter Sam, I thought was done so well. Bringing us over to Johnny Lawrence and his great ending to this show, being somebody who felt like he was nothing, felt like he was a loser, that he was abandoned by the people that he needed most at a time where he needed them the most. And now he has created his own family, he has his own support, he has his own people in his corner, but also still feeling like he needed to win this Sekai Takai, because especially with it being in the same place that he lost to Daniel LaRusso, the moment that changed his life forever. This was a very important moment for him, and I was rooting for him, man. I honestly did not know when they decided to throw the senseis in the fold and have them fight. I honestly did not know whether or not he was going to win. There was some foreshadowing, there was some hints at maybe, you know, when Daniel brings up the first Rocky film and he's talking about how, you know, Rocky was just happy that he was able to go the distance and it didn't matter if he won or lost because he had the girl that he loved and blah, blah, blah. I was like, ah, man, they might be hitting. I think bro might lose, but I'm so glad that they went the other way because it did mean so much to him and he definitely deserved it. You know, when I think about Cobra Kai, especially when it was getting first released, I often think about how Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother felt.
Wait, when you watch The Karate Kid, you actually root for that mean blonde boy?
No, I root for the scrawny loser from New Jersey who barely even knows karate. When I watch The Karate Kid, I root for the Karate Kid, Johnny Lawrence from the Cobra Kai dojo. Get your head out of your ass, Lily.
And before watching How I Met Your Mother, I never really thought about that take until I heard Barney say it. And I was like, you know what? I get it. But not only that, Johnny being able to step up to the plate and be a father, and be a good sensei to these kids, and talking Miguel into some sense and comforting Robbie when Robbie broke his leg or got his leg broke and letting him know that things were going to be okay, and Robbie being able to come to terms with that. This last season really felt like such a celebration of the entire show, but the Karate Kid films before. The use of flashbacks in motivational moments and montages I thought was fantastically done. We had speeches with Robbie and Tori talking about how even though during their karate run some of the worst things had happened to them in their life, but karate also gave them the best things, their friends, their family, each other. This sense of confidence and being a winner and knowing that you can make it and that you can take the hits and get back up and hit harder. I was done so well. And honestly, I think those two characters, at least out of the kids, are my favorite of the series. Robbie and Tori. I think they are just fantastically done. I thought Miguel was going to be my favorite, especially when the first season dropped. I thought Miguel was going to be my favorite. He was the main kid. He is the Karate Kid. But what's crazy about this show is they're like, they're all the Karate Kid, you know? And I really got a kick out of all their stories. Tori was such a fierce, fighting, take no BS, but very emotional type of character that I felt for her in every scene. When she was getting manipulated by Kreese, when she lost her mom, when she felt like even her own people were against her and trying to keep her from greatness. The way that she plays this character, I forget the actress's name, but the way that she plays her emotional scenes is just so hard hitting. I am interested in everything that these kids do. Definitely my fan cast for a Power Rangers reboot. I know that that's going around. I think that is perfectly done. Bring this cast back, make them the Rangers, because I'll be there front row seat watching that come to light. Robbie is another great character who I like to call Little Val Kilmer, being somebody who was so angry and had all this built up tension in from his life, and being able to come out of it a very caring and loving character, and realizing that he does have a lot and that he can make it and that he's not a loser, forming a relationship with his dad was done amazingly. The story between Miguel and Sam and them growing together, but then now kind of growing apart, with Sam going to Okinawa and Miguel going to Stanford, touches on a lot of the realities of growing up, and it was done so well. And honestly, at this point, kind of left up to interpretation about what happens next. The Binary Brothers, oh my goodness, they were dope characters too. Funny, a lot of the comedic relief of the show. Hawk was so badass in those first two seasons, or was it season 2 and 3? The fighting scene at the LaRusso house of season 2, I believe, still is probably one of my favorite fight scenes of the entire show. And Hawk was badass. Eli ended up being a badass, still very timid, but went through an entire character arc that just made him more confident as a person, but still secure with who he was. I thought was done amazingly. And now that we're here at the end, I am so sad to see this show go. But at the same time, I am glad that they decided to end it, because a lot of times you see these shows go on and go on and go on, and a lot of the times it just gets worse and worse. The downgrade is very measurable. So I'm glad that they had an ending in mind. I'm glad that they were able to get to their ending. From being a show that started out on YouTube and now on Netflix, I think is an amazing run. They did a fantastic job with this, and I had such a good time following these characters. And lastly, kind of building upon the fact that I like that this came full circle and ended with Johnny Lawrence being on top, winning, being the champion, getting his second chance. I love that it came back to Cobra Kai too. We have Daniel LaRusso, all of the kids wearing the Cobra Kai gis and supporting Johnny Lawrence. And it was just so dope to see, because we've had quite a few dojos throughout this show. It's called Cobra Kai. We've had Miyagi-Do, we've had Cobra Kai, we've had the Hawk logo. I forget what they were called for a minute when Johnny had started up his own dojo after Cobra Kai kind of broke up and Kreese took over. We've had a lot of different dojos show up in this show and be somewhat of a focus of the show. And for everything to come back to Cobra Kai and honoring the name of the show, and Cobra Kai coming out on top. And I wasn't too sure if Johnny was gonna win this. I know I said it, but Wolf from that other dojo, that dude was a menace. And for the win to be given to Cobra Kai, and for Johnny to be the winner and really take it home for Cobra Kai, I thought it was badass, dude. It was so badass. I am interested though, with Karate Kid Legends coming out later this year, and I believe that there is quite a big time jump between our season finale of Cobra Kai and the beginning of Karate Kid Legends. I want to say it's about 2 years. I'm interested to see if we will get any returning faces from the show. If any of them, I'm sure Daniel's going to talk about some of them. I would like to know where Sam ended up. She only had a year in Okinawa, I believe. So I would like to see if maybe that got extended, or maybe she came back home. I'd like to hear how Johnny's doing with now probably a 2-year-old daughter, and Robbie doing his thing in entertainment and being kind of a poster boy for karate. I don't need a lot, because I know we're focusing on an entirely new kid, new character, and that's cool. Jackie Chan's coming back. I'm all for that. But a little bit of a mention, kind of letting me know where they're at in that time, would be pretty dope. Like I said, man, I loved this show. I loved the entire run. I loved the cast. I loved the story. I loved the action that was thrown into here. The karate was fun, and the way that it ended, I think ended on such a high note. I give all props to the creators. I give props to the actors, everybody on the team and behind the scenes. You did a fantastic job with this one. So that's where I'm gonna throw it off to you guys, man. How did you feel about the final 5 episodes of season 6, our finale? How did you feel about the show overall? Who was your favorite character? And what are you looking forward to in Karate Kid Legends? Be sure to hit that like button if you did like this video. I appreciate it. Sends the video out to more people, so thank you. Also hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on future content that gets put out. But like I'm always saying, man, I'm out. Y'all be smooth and stay geeked up.